WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I'm in Ireland, to be exact. I'm at the Connacht Distillery. This is their bottling called Spade and Bushel Double Barrel, 12-year-old, 42.3%. If you'd like to look it up, it's whiskey base number 126435. 7,500 bottles worldwide, and I have bottle number 1,363. Limited edition. I paid 60 euros for this, translated into about $75, which I think is a pretty steep price for this. All right, so Connacht is a brand new distillery. They have not yet produced their own whiskey. It has not been 3 years since they've actually started distilling. Question number one. I like doing quizzes sometimes. Where did they get their 3 pot stills from? A, is it Scotland? B, is it the United States of America? C, is it Germany? Or D, is Canada? A, Scotland. B, United States. C, Germany. No, Italy. That's not the answer. D, Canada. The correct answer is D, Canada. I didn't know Canada made pot stills. Interesting. All right. So, and all the brewing and all the malting equipment is from Germany. Yay. They're in County Mayo, and this is a triple distilled, undisclosed distillery. Could be Bushmills, right? So what they actually did back around the 2006 mark is they bought a case load or a batch load of barrels, triple distilled 10-year-old Irish whiskey. They bottled it fairly quickly, Spade and Bushel, tiny little 375 milliliter bottles. This is actually cask strength, so this is 57.5%. I paid over 35 euros for this, which turns into a 70 euro bottle, which turns into more than this actually. But do not forget, cask strength, do not forget, 42.3%. And so I like the bottle. They actually created their own little brands, Spade and Bushel, and instead of the Connacht. Got the shirt, yay! And the master distiller is Robert Castle. He designed the 3 pot stills, so they're unique for Ireland, so that the distillate, which is going to be produced, which is being produced at the moment, will be unique. And he is based in or from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's responsible for a whiskey I personally did not like. Brothership, it's an Irish whiskey and American whiskey fusion. It's aged 10 years, it's 45%. I thought it was way too expensive, and I did not like the taste of the American and the Irish together. Other people did. That's the way things goes. All right, so the head distiller, who's actually in Ireland, is then the John Park. They both were actually trained, Robert Castle and John Park were trained to become distillers at the same place. I think both of them were Scotland. It might have been Ireland. I'm not sure. The start of the distillery goes back maybe about 2019 is what we have now, maybe about 5 years or 6 years ago. Family Stapleton, 2 guys, 2 very successful businessmen, went back to Ireland, visited relatives, and they just decided, hey, let's build a distillery. Everyone else was building distilleries at that time as well. Why not? Let's do it together. I would say the only real mistake they made would be the location of the distillery. They're County Mayo. If you land in Dublin, which most people do, in the airport, then drive over Galway, and then drive up about 2 hours along the west coast, you'll get to Connacht, which means it's way off the path of all the tourists. They do have a visitor center, very, very, very well done, but it would have been better to have it down in Ringkerry. It would have been better to have it Galway. It would have been better and then closer to Dublin, just for the amount of tourists they're going to have. All right, good. Let's try this. So what they did is 2016, they took this spirit, this distillate, this juice, and transferred it into premium select bourbon casks. Why they didn't write first fill bourbon casks, I'm a little bit worried about. Here on the bottle it says 2016 we preciously, I love advertising, transferred this outstanding single malt Irish whiskey to premium select bourbon casks, further enhancing the wonderful character of this fine whiskey. Adjectives, don't you just love them? Yeah. I didn't like this. I'm not a great fan of this. It's not bad. And this, I actually did my German video about this, and I know exactly the grade. I gave it there. Let's see if it stands up to that grade or not. Now, on the nose, I like the nose. It's a very, very nice balance of baking spices and allspice, a little bit of cinnamon in there. I get a deep, dark, rich cranberry note, as well as a lot of vanilla. And I'm going to actually say battling it out with that wood spice. Yeah? And this is one of my main concerns, and this is one of my main criticisms of Irish whiskey all the time, is way back then, 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, so let's go back to 2005, 2004. This was probably made at Bushmills, and so Bushmills 2004. Bushmills in 2004, before the Irish boom happened, was just producing whiskey. And they always had the problem, and up until today there still is the problem, of wood management. Scotland gets the best casks, first fill, American, and so on, and Ireland gets often what's left over. And that's a big problem, which means second, third, fourth fill casks. And I really do have the feeling that this wasn't a third or fourth fill, most of them. Could be a mixture of both. And the same thing of this, and then they put it in premium select bourbon cask, maybe first, maybe a mix from 2/3 first and 1/3 second fill bourbon casks that were hand selected, very nice. And yet, that old oak is competing with a new vanilla oak, and I don't have the feeling they're doing this. I have the feeling they're doing this, even on the nose as well as on the palate. But I do like the nose. It's a wonderful palate. I would actually give this might be a 2, a solid B. We have a grading system in Germany. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is failing, 1 is best. And so it's a solid B on the nose. Very good grade, by the way. And then, towards the end, I get this oakiness, a bitter, astringent oakiness, and the aftertaste, the finish is just not what it could, should, or has to be in order to be a great whiskey in my book. Going over here back to the 10-year-old, I will dilute it down to about the 46% mark. So I'll try to get it to 42.3. Can't do that just by putting water in there randomly. I got a lot more of the vanillas, a lot more of that cask spice in there. Actually, a very nice whiskey, also in the nose. I get that tired cask moment at the end. Now, I said in my German video, I'm going to say in my English video as well, I think I've discovered something about myself. I've had so many people on so many videos, especially bourbons and so on, keep on banana. I've never, ever said I've had a banana in my whiskey. I think I'm banana blind. Once or twice, I've talked about this overripe. A ripe, almost a black type of banana where it's mushy-gushy. I've talked about that before, but that normal banana I've never had on a whiskey before. I think I'm blind to that aroma. Now, the same thing is I think I'm oversensitive to this tired cask wood. The ex-bourbon casks that have been used maybe 1 or 2 times too many, especially with the Irish whiskey. As a phenomenon, I'm getting a whole lot. And that's what they actually, why did they do a double barrel? Because they recognize it themselves. Why do they finish their whiskeys and try to add American whiskey to it, because we know that there's just a lot going on in here that shouldn't be there. And we're trying to rectify that. We're trying to adjust that. We're trying to somehow change it to make it a better thing. And they're doing a halfway decent job. But it's not yet an A whiskey. It's not yet a B whiskey on my scale. But I am going to give it a C, definitely. And now the question, is it a C or a C+? I'm going to stick with a solid C. Even my German video is like, C+? No, C, well, almost a tad more. I like to have a grade right between the C and the C+. That's where it's at. And it all has to do with the finish. If the finish wasn't that old, tired cask heavy, the vanilla is really good. I would actually be considering a C++, B minus, but not yet. Now, €60, $75 for a 12-year-old Irish whiskey. Sorry, this is actually not something I'm going to say go for it. I'm going to give it a C- in English. I gave it a D+ in German for the value for money. I just think it's too much. Yeah, think of all the scotch you can get for €60, $75. Think of the 2 bottles of bourbon you can get for that same price. Yeah, and you can get a Mitsunara 13-year-old Glendalough for that price. At least over here in Germany. And that was fantastic. Yeah, basically the same type of juice, basically the same type of distillate. They took the Mitsunara cask and transformed it into a symphony of greatness. And this double barreled is just not at that level yet. All right, my question of the day is, what types of whiskeys have you had in your glass with the word double in it? Now, I'm not talking about double distilled. I'm talking about double wood, double barreled, double cask, double whatever. So what are some of the things? I know, for example, Jim Beam gives a double oaked. I know Compass Bocht has a, single double, I think it's called, right? And there's many, many others. Please write that down in the comments. That would help a lot. I'm not wearing my WhiskyJason t-shirt, but I'm wearing this. And at the end, I'll do this because I look like my dad, and I hate that. When he was 20, when he was 40, got the hat, got the t-shirt. I actually sold this whiskey at a whiskey fair to a couple of people. I can recommend it, but I cannot say highly recommendable. All right, thank you very much for watching. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my videos come out. And thank you very much for liking, subscribing, and telling others about this crazy guy over in Europe tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. All the best. Bye-bye.